Hello, dear ones. Oh, I forgot to put up my light. Let's see if this is good. No. There, let's try that. Is that better? Okay, you guys. The best laid plans. Maybe that's better. Hi, everybody. It's Maya Zahira here, and this is the monthly Facebook Live for our Sacred Healing Circle group. And I brought this little light out with me because, well, it's September now, and it is getting dark earlier. Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you. So hopefully the camera will be able to adjust. And I just really love doing these videos outside. And I know I could be doing this inside, but we're going to try to squeeze a little bit more out of the summer, because next month we will not be able to do this outside unless I buy like some big like photographer lights and put them on my front porch. So hello everybody, and hi Anne, good to see you. This is our opportunity to connect, and I paused a little bit because you know, it's not the same as a face-to-face in-person connection. It's not even the same as us being on video where we can both see each other, but this is our, nevertheless, this is our monthly check-in at the beginning of the month, where I check in with you. I share with you some words of wisdom as your fearless leader of this group. And then, of course, with our monthly class, whether you're coming out to my place on the Kansas prairie or you're joining us on the online classes, you will be able to connect with the group in a more interactive sort of way for the monthly classes. So here we are for some announcements and just some words of wisdom. And so good to see all of you. Another reason why I wanted to do this outside today is because I got a very clear message 2 nights ago in my nightly meditation. And it was, I made some little notes here, it was that, actually it was at the very end of my meditation, and I had been doing some drumming with my little big drum here. I'd been doing some drumming, and actually I was sitting out on the beyond that tree facing the prairie, so you can't see that spot right now, but that's often where I go and do my nightly meditations, and it's always totally dark, so I'm under the stars or the clouds depending on the weather, or the moon, and I'll drum sometimes. I will meditate, I'll pray, I'll clear energy and issues from myself or the land or the planet and all sorts of stuff. So I had just spent about 30 minutes drumming and chanting and saying prayers for all different things, the planet, people, the creatures, and it was a very sweet experience. And somebody just drove by on the dirt road, so it was a very sweet experience. And some of you also know that I have gnomes on my yard, in my yard, on my property is what I meant to say. And that's kind of a long story as to how I even know that they are there. But I have clairvoyant psychic vision. I'm able to see things. I have clairsentience. I'm able to see things. Clairaudience. I'm able to hear messages. And there have been several encounters with them. And so what's really cool is when I go out and I do my meditations, a lot of times the little gnomes will come out and they'll come and sit. And so 2 nights ago, I was praying and I was drumming and I was chanting and I was singing a song Stephanie says, yes, loves to the gnomes, loves. Awesome. Yeah, I'll send them all of your love. And so I was singing this chanting song, and they were singing along, and they were like really enjoying that. Like, I was providing the entertainment for them, and so all of these other elemental creatures came out too. And yeah, so just as an aside, because I'm an open-minded skeptic, and I would be asking this if I were watching this video, like, well, how do you know that you really have gnomes on your property? You probably just have a wild imagination, and that's all, and that's cool, but it's just imagination. Well, I had circumstances where there was one particular gnome who, when I was in my bedroom sleeping, or trying to sleep, I woke up and he was on the outside of my window, like he had climbed up, and he was like standing there looking into the screen, and it wasn't in a creepy way. It was just like, hi, I'm your neighbor. And when I had been going to sleep earlier that night, I had been, for some reason, I was talking out loud, and I was saying my prayers out loud instead of in my mind. And I was saying, you know, I'm really struggling with this, with my health, and with this, and with some body pain, and blah, blah, blah. And this, I don't know why I was saying it all out loud, but I think the gnomes heard me, because this gnome climbed up, and when I woke up, and I was asleep, but I woke up partway. And by the way, when you've just woken up or you're just falling asleep, that's a time when you're very open to the psychic. So if you're going to see something in the other realm, that's going to be a prime time when you're going to be able to, because your brain isn't so full of all of the gerbils. So all of the gerbils and the thoughts and the gerbil wheels and everything. So he stood there at the window, and he said the name of a particular herb. And then in the morning when I got up, I was like, oh, I think I've heard of that herb before, but I had no idea what it was used for. So I looked it up, and it turned out it was exactly for what I was saying I was having issues for. And I swear I did not know. I thought it was used for something else completely. And then a couple weeks later, I think it was only 2 weeks later, the same thing happened. But this time he told me about a different herb, and still, again, I did not know what that herb was used for. I thought it was for something else completely. I swear on my honor, I did not know that it was, I thought it was for something else completely. And I look it up, and sure enough, it's for the condition that I've been dealing with. And so I started taking both herbs, and especially the second one, that helped me get off my pharmaceutical medication that I didn't like being on in the first place. All because of my friendly neighborhood gnomes. So I can't prove anything, but I've had enough encounters where I've gotten information from them that's been really helpful, and that has like literally been life-changing. And so anyway, so my gnome neighbors they are really helpful, really nice, and when I go outside, I talk to them, and I've thanked them like a zillion times for the herbal suggestions. Oh, I know I talked about this in another one of my public videos, but about the gnomes. I asked that gnome, I said, how did you know about this supplement? It's not even native to this area. Because the first supplement, I was like, oh, they know about it because it like grows around here. The second one is not from this region at all. And I said, how did you even know about this? And he said, from books. And he showed me, he always has these books with him, and he's always reading. So whatever, believe me or not, but I have gnomes on my property. This is a magical place. And in the spring, I had thousands of fireflies that would light up the yard at this time of night. When it was still light, they would start to come out. And it was just so freaking magical. So speaking of that, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but that's okay. That's all right. So I know I was talking about the meditation from 2 nights ago when I was talking or singing with the Gnomes. The night before, I had been, so this was 3 nights ago, I'd been outside, and I sat down and I was meditating and praying for a little while, and I was, calling in my angels, calling in my animal totems, calling in different helpers, and then I spoke an acknowledgement, because I didn't need to call them in, they were already there. I spoke an acknowledgement to the enchanted ones. And so here's the thing, it sounds so crazy, the wife of the male gnome. I don't often get names, by the way, in, with spiritual beings, but I get personalities, I get what they look like, all sorts of stuff. And auditory messages, but I don't often get names. So the wife of the one who had told me about the herbs, on one particular night a while back, she had told me that they wanted to be called enchanted ones. And so sometimes I will refer to them as gnomes, but out of respect, a lot of times when I'm speaking directly to them, I will say, hello, enchanted ones. You're such wonderful neighbors, and blah, blah, blah. And so 3 nights ago, I spoke an acknowledgement to the enchanted ones. And I said, thank you for being such good neighbors. And, I mentioned about the fireflies, right? That had been, we had thousands of them every single night, all throughout the spring. Well, it's September now, and ever since maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, the fireflies have stopped. There haven't been any. And I've been going outside every single night, almost every single night, doing my meditations, and there haven't been any, not one. And most of my meditations, my eyes are open. I'm looking out on the prairie, and I haven't seen a single one, okay? So right after I said my words of acknowledgement and gratitude to the, quote, enchanted ones, I was like, wait a minute, I just thought I saw something flash. And I looked, and there was a firefly. One firefly. And it was maybe 5 feet in front of me, and it was kind of going around, and then it flew over to the side. And one single firefly, that was the only one that I saw during the whole 45, I was out there longer than 30 minutes. During that whole 45 minutes that I was out there, it just showed up right when I acknowledged the enchanted ones, which is kind of cool. So then, and I mentioned this at the very beginning, and do any of the rest of you do circular storytelling where you're like, I have this thing to tell you, and then we're going to go on this journey all around, and we're going to come back around. And that's exactly what we're doing tonight. So coming back around, so at the end of the meditation 2 nights ago, remember 2 nights ago, I was drumming, I was singing a particular chant, and, and Stephanie's saying, yes, I do the circle. I was chanting for the gnomes and the other earth elementals, and just blessing the earth. And when I was done, when my meditation time was done, I put on my shoes. I was getting ready to get up and go back into the house. And right as I was getting ready to get up, I received the message that it was not actual words. It was more just a knowing that came into me. So I'll see if I can put it into words. But I saw and felt the people that I'm connected with on Facebook, and that includes this Sacred Healing Circle group, as well as others, and other social media, Facebook friends and YouTube channel friends and all of that. I saw and felt all of you And then I received the message that they need this too, meaning this earth energy. And then the next wave of knowing was, don't take for granted that they're able, again, I'm trying to put it into words, it was more of just a feeling. Don't take for granted that all of them are able to experience what you're able to experience, Maya, going out onto the prairie every night and really plugging in and connecting. And what I got was, Maya, you're supposed to start sharing that more, because I do a lot of videos about psychic protection and like personal empowerment and personal growth and all of that, which is great. But this is another aspect. Like, this is what I do every day. I give myself permission to sometimes take one day off, by the way, like if I get home late from something. But almost every single day, I go outside, bare feet on the ground, and even if it's cold, I bundle up and I've got my hat and my gloves and everything. I might not go barefoot if there's snow on the ground, but I get out, put my bare feet on the ground if it's not too cold, and I connect with the earth. And there's a dirt road pretty close to my house, so every once in a while we get a car driving by. I connect with the earth, and there's been something really magical about doing it at night as well, because then I feel like I'm really connecting even more with the cosmic energies, with the stars, our solar system and beyond. And it's just this like great expanse of knowledge and wisdom, and that balance of connecting with the earth and connecting with divine source and with the cosmos. And so that's what I do, so that I can be in better service to all of you. But I received the message that it needs to be more than that. It needs to not just be me using that to fill up, replenish, clear myself, and then be of service, but it needs to also be about me sharing this directly with you. So it's not nighttime, but who knows, maybe this special light that I have will be able to work at nighttime, but still you wouldn't be able to see the stars like I would be able to, but maybe we'll experiment with that a little bit. So this video is intentionally about helping you connect with earth energy even more, and not just with earth energy, but the energy of all that is. Usually when I come on and do these videos for our Sacred Healing Circle, I have some kind of a message or announcements to share with all of you, and I don't have any logistical announcements for you all, but I do have a little, let me see if I can grab this. I've got a little piece of paper here. I do have a little tidbit to share in addition to my stories. And this is actually something I'm going to be sharing in my weekly email, but I'll share it in different words with you all today. And it is a bit of clarity that I received over the weekend. So this past weekend was Labor Day weekend, and I went into the weekend feeling, actually it was like Wednesday, so it was before the weekend. I was feeling a little tense, not major anxiety or major stressed out, just kind of tense and feeling inner resistance. And I was like, what's that all about? And I ended up staying home all weekend. It was Labor Day weekend, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay home. So I stayed home, I think for the entire weekend. I did not go anywhere. And I got some stuff done. I stayed in silence, and, I watched a couple movies. and I put a couple lamps together that I bought 9 months ago and never put together for my office so that we could have better lighting when I do videos in there. And, you know, I just had quiet time. And as the weekend unfolded, I got better clarity on what was going on, why I was feeling tense. And some of you may have heard me speak about our emotional guidance system before. This is something that the teachers, Abraham Hicks, that they talk about. And the emotional guidance system is that part of you. It's your emotions. It's your emotions that tell you if you are in alignment or out of alignment. And if you're feeling any so-called negative emotions, that's okay. It's normal. You don't need to deny them. But it's information. It's information that's telling you, ooh, something's out of alignment. So rather than taking anti-anxiety medication or anti-depression medication, instead of doing that, listening to what those messages are, and maybe something in your life needs to change. What do I need to do to get back into alignment? And by the way, and the wind is picking up here. By the way, you know, I mentioned about anti-anxiety or anti-depression medications. Just a little blurb here that I fully acknowledge and honor that some people need medication in order to stay balanced. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about all of the little things that come up that we actually can make life adjustments. And the depression or the anxiety is about life circumstances, and it's about life circumstances and not about chemical imbalances. And so I think we have some gnomes showing up, actually. Awesome. So when I notice my emotional guidance system giving me indications that something's out of alignment, then I take the time, whether it's an hour or I was lucky I had a 3-day weekend to do this, to just kind of relax, not overthink it, because you often can't get your answers. You can't solve a mental problem by just being more mental. Sometimes you just have to move out of the mental and just let yourself go into a flow, and then the clarity comes to you. So the clarity that came to me was that, you've probably heard me talk about this before, the clarity that came to me was that is that I've been pushing too hard. I've been trying to do too much, and that's kind of a common pattern for me because I was raised and conditioned, very strongly conditioned, to be a workaholic. My dad was the manager. He was the plant manager of a plastic bottle company that made, first they made cans, like for canned food, and then later they were making plastics. And so he was a plant manager, and so he was the boss man, and so he was all about work ethic, and he would try to teach me about that. And like even though we had enough to get by, I was required to go get a job as soon as I was 14 because it was all about the work ethic. And there's nothing wrong with that. That was probably, you know, it was good. It was good to learn a positive work ethic, but it was a little extreme actually, because also from my mother, I was adopted when I was a baby. So my adopted dad, my adopted mom, from my mother, she was pretty high-strung type A personality, and she was pretty OCD. Like, I don't know that she was diagnosed with it, but she should have been diagnosed if she wasn't. Very OCD. So even though I didn't have the same genes as them, I had very strong conditioning. And so with that very strong conditioning, you know, I went into my adult world having a very solid workaholic tendencies, personality, right? But my genetics were all about wanting to connect with spirit and wanting to be and to be present and to be peaceful and to be quiet. And so there's always been this like push and pull and push and pull. And I've always been, aside from the workaholic thing, I've always been an overachiever. So like I've always been really like I always want to just I always wanted to get an A plus. You know what I mean? That's just, so that's a little bit different than workaholism. It's more like I always want to be more for the world and create more and do more for you guys and like write 20 books and like I just want to make a difference, right? So I've always had that drive. And yet my body is like, no, we're going to make you really tired. We're going to make you not be able to do that. And then my spirit will also be like, creating an existential crisis for me if I don't slow down and just give myself plenty of opportunity to just be. And so when given the opportunity, sometimes I will backslide and go into that overachiever mode. And I started doing that a couple months ago. I signed up for a program that is both business and spiritual. And it's there's lessons. It's a class that I'm in, but it's also about achieving and creating things. And there's a lot of, it's very achievement oriented, which is great, but it really catapulted me into that overachiever. I'm going to work on this all the time on my day off. I'm not going to take a day off. And it's like, oh my God. Yeah. So it was starting to get to me. So this past weekend, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm feeling like there's that push, and that doesn't feel good. Now, in our society, the sun's going down and the trees are all black now. It's pretty cool. In our society, it's all about push, achieve, do more, be busy all the time. And even if you're not being busy all the time, you're still supposed to be doing more. Even like in the American yoga lifestyle, the people who are really into yoga, it's still, there's all this achievement. Like there's yoga contests and like, it just makes me laugh. And I'm not putting those down. There's a place for it, but it's just, I'm just illustrating that in the United States and in the Western world, North America and the whole Western world is all about achievement. And so it's really so easy to get plugged into that. And if you already have the workaholic, programming, then it's going to go haywire in this culture. So over the weekend, I was like, okay, so my emotional guidance system, I was starting to feel that stress and just low, little waves of underlying waves of anxiety, just kind of all the time, and feeling this inner resistance of like, push, and no, I don't want to push all the time. And so as the weekend unfolded, I was like, okay, so I've been pushing too much. And so I was reminded of something that one of my spiritual teachers many years ago, I guess it was probably 2009. That wasn't as many years ago. That was a little over 10 years ago. Or 10 years ago. I can't do my math tonight. And I won't go into that whole story. I will just say that I was struggling with this same issue. I'll just say that, but in a much bigger way. And she just reminded me that less is more. Less is more. And so I made that my mantra for a while, and it helped me to disengage from the collective consciousness that says that if you're not achieving and creating things and doing like a million zillion things all the time, then you're not worthy, or you're not whatever it is that you're not. And I would just repeat to myself, less is more, less is more, less is more. And I would just let things go. I would just be like, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And I would always look for like quality over quantity. Like, okay, let's do less of this, but let's do one thing that's really good, you know, and let's let the rest go. And so right away, I got some ideas for things that I've been doing in my work that are just kind of extra. Like, you know, I probably don't need to do this or that. And let me focus on some other things that are more important. So there's a few things that I've adjusted, like kind of behind the scenes. Nothing about this program is changing, by the way. It's all totally the same. Everything's the same. One of the changes, for example, is that I was sending out 2 emails a week just because the overachiever in me was like, I need to send out 1 email on Monday. That's my free video, whatever my Facebook Live was that week. And then I need to send out another email that's about another thing. I'm like, no, that takes an hour to do each video or to do each email. Let's just do 1 email. Like, simple. In fact, people don't want so many emails, right? So less is really more. So that's an example of one of the things that I decided to change. But that's actually my personal intention for this month, is to figure out, just constantly be aware of what can I release? Is there anything extra that I'm doing that that really doesn't need to be done? You know, how can I work smarter instead of harder, and all of that. And so I'm going to actually give you a list of questions right now that you can use for yourself if you would like to, if you feel like you need to practice less is more this month, or maybe ongoing. And I'm a big advocate for doing a check-in at least once a month, or maybe once a week, with your life. Like, is everything going? Is everything going the way that I want it to? Or what actions do I need to make, etc. Otherwise, you're not consciously creating your life. I preach about this all the time. You're not consciously creating your life if you're not checking in, if you're not clear about what you want to create. Then life is in control of you. You're not driving the car. Okay, it's driving you. So here's these questions. Grab a pen and paper. Just 3 short questions, okay? So this is less is more. What can I release? Number 2, what can I simplify? Number 3, what work am I doing that is not needed? So I'm going to go through these questions again. What can I release? So that can be limiting beliefs. That can be things that you don't need anymore, clutter in your house, stuff in your closet that you're not using anymore. That can be like old emails that need to be deleted. That can be mail that's like old mail that needs to be just tossed in the recycling bin. And it can be, what else can you release? Anything at all. Habits throughout your day, things that are in your routine that are kind of wasting your time and that you don't need to be doing, you can release those. Number 2, what can I simplify? So that can go back to simplifying things in your house. Like if you've got a bunch of clutter, you've released some clutter, right? And number 1, now you can simplify and just like, you know, maybe you don't need 5 coffee makers in your house. Just simplify. You just need 1, okay? Or are there any processes throughout your day or your week? Do things need to be so complicated? Can't you just make it simple? Just make it simple. Okay. Number 3, what work am I doing that's not needed? So many times we are doing all of these actions in an unconscious way because we've just created habits or because that's how everybody else is doing it. But then we're so busy doing all the time and we're so tired. So what, and you don't have to think of it as work, but what am I doing that's not needed? What actions am I doing that are not needed? Is there anything you can do to simplify? Like maybe you are making elaborate meals every night for your family. Will they die if you don't make elaborate meals every night? You know, they're not going to die. They're going to be fine. If you maybe make like an average meal and then the next night, goodness forbid, they have leftovers, you know, like make it simple. They don't have to have complicated stuff, and it'll be a good lesson for them, right? So where can you simplify? What can you do to make things easier? All right. And I don't have my clock with me. I know we've been going for a while. So I'm going to finish up with something special. Going through these questions that I just shared with you, it's all about helping you move out of the busyness of life. So you're still active in life. You're still doing things, but not in such a frantic way. And in such a way that you're able to be more present. You're able to be more present to yourself. You're able to be more present to the things around you, to earth energy, to other people. You're able to be more present to situations in your life, able to be more cognizant of your feelings, of other people's feelings, right? And so often we've kind of abandoned our lives. Like we're so busy, we're like on this gerbil wheel that we've kind of checked out. And I point upwards because when I see it clairvoyantly with people, their energy, their soul is like, it is not embodied, but it's like a little bit up and maybe all the way out the top of their head, or even off to the side, but usually up because they're trying to connect with spiritual energy because being in the physical world feels hard. And I get it. I do get it. But I'm inviting you to return and just come back into yourself. Release what needs to be released so that you can be present. All right, so I'm going to finish by chanting, singing to you all the song that I was singing to the gnomes the other night. And I just want to say I'm a little bit self-conscious because I am not a professional singer, and it is a good thing that I don't sing for a living because it's a good thing that I don't sing for a living because that would not be such a good idea. So just use this as an example that anybody can sing, anybody can create the energy of chanting, and it's all about the energy, okay? So, pardon me if I'm ever out of tune at all. And I've got my drum here. And I want you to just focus on coming into this energy, into this drumming energy. And just feel that beat. Return, return, the earth, the thank you for joining me for this Facebook Live. And as always, I'm sending you all my love.